It all starts now.
Hey gang, welcome to Rock Talk with Nick Z. This is episode 4. We got a special guest today. 40 years ago, the Iron City House Rockers released their crucial follow-up to Love So Tough called Have a Good Time, But Get Out Alive. And currently, it's been reissued, remastered. Sounds really great. Cleveland International put it out. And my special guest today is the main man behind the Iron City House Rockers and his solo career in the House Rockers. Please say hello to Mr. Joe Grushecky. How you doing, Joe?
Good, Nick. How are you?
Good, man. Thanks for joining me today. I appreciate
Glad
it.
to be here. I'll tell you what, Tony Valentino is going to be hard to follow, though. He was like the ultimate talk show guest, man.
Yeah, he was fun, man. Thanks for the compliment. I appreciate it. You know, one of the things we do is I like to just chat initially a little about your early days and find out what got you going. Now, in the early days, you grew up in a steel town like a lot of us, obviously. What was the first memories you had of music? Was there music in the house? What do you remember?
Well, my father was a musician. He was a professional musician up until World War II when he got drafted in the Army. He had, back in the day, an AM radio was huge here in Western Pennsylvania. He had like a country swing band. They're called the Happy Serenaders. Actually, he passed away in 2004. And when I was going through his stuff, I found some of his set list.
Wow.
So it was pretty cool. And so he was a multi-instrumentalist. He played a stand-up bass. He played guitar, played fiddle, mandolin, played around with accordion a little bit. And he also played saxophone, tenor saxophone. So he was able to read music and play in swing bands too. So he was pretty, multi-dimensional musician. And my mother was a singer, and she, we had talked, you and I personally about the Tamburitsins and the ethnic music here. So she had sang on radio and danced, and so there was always music going on in my house. That was their, we were poor, and that was their entertainment.
Right.
And they just loved music, and it was something playing all the time.
What?
And
go ahead.
But I had an uncle who was, the rock and roll 50s generation.
Yeah.
And he had all the 45s, Jerry Lee Lewis, the Cadillacs.
Oh, yeah.
Speedo by the Cadillacs. In fact, I wrote this song called I Remember. It's on a Fingerprints record. And, it talks about me. One of my first memories is of watching him comb his hair. He had this big,
yeah, DA.
With the DA in the back, and he'd grease it all up, and he'd comb it, and he'd play a stack of 45s on what they used to call them record machines, and a little 45 thing.
Yeah.
And he had Elvis and Jerry Lee and the Great Pretender, by the Platters, and Speedo by the Cadillacs, and I just remember I heard that stuff at a very young age, and it just stuck. It stuck from the moment I heard it.
Now, when you, as a guitarist, was guitar your first instrument of being around multi-instruments?
Well, my dad had me on a clarinet, but, you couldn't play rock and roll on a clarinet. I wasn't very enthusiastic about it. But, like most of my generation, when the Beatles hit, it was transformational, boom, sports went out the window and you had to get a guitar. So once I got a guitar and I went all out, I saved all my money and bought an electric guitar, Sears Roebuck, one of those Silvertones.
Silvertone, yeah.
Silvertone with the amplifier built right in the case.
Sure, yeah.
Both. And from the moment I plugged that sucker in, that was it. I just knew what I wanted to do.
And were you self-taught, you think, or do you remember?
Pretty much, yeah. My dad knew the basic chords. He taught me some chords. And I had a neighbor who, Johnny Mersiglio, he played in a band called the Hides. He had actually put out a record when he was in high school. He had been taking guitar since he was 6.
Yeah.
And, so we get together and, ask him all the questions. How do you do this? How do you do that? And so between him and my dad, they taught me the basics. And then like everybody else, I just listened to the records.
Yeah.
I try to watch, there wasn't much rock on TV, but if you would see it, try to figure out where are they putting their hands, how are they doing this?
Yeah.
And at the same time, Pittsburgh was this really weird market because, you had the regular AM top 40 radio like KDKA and QED, I believe, KQV and KQV. And they played, like all the hits.
Right.
But then you had all the AM stations like Greensburg had one, McKeesport, the North Side, Monroeville, McKee. They all had these disc jockeys at about 6 o'clock on Friday nights. They would start playing the most obscure rhythm and blues, rock and roll, all hard edged, all rhythm and bluesy. And they would play that until midnight on Saturday, and then that was when Sunday hit. That was still church day, in those days. The rock and roll was done. But so I grew up, I always tell people, what was everybody, the rest of the country listened to was Spencer Davis Group. Give Me Some Lovin', right?
Yeah.
Here in Pittsburgh, in these AM places, they were playing High Time Baby. That was the hit.
Right.
That was what the radio played. And they had all these teen nightclubs. So when I was a kid, I saw Bo Diddley multiple times, Sam DeSham and the Pharaohs. Mitch Ryder and the Detroit Wills, still one of the best bands I've ever seen in my entire life. Smokey, Wilson Pickett, Sam and Dave, Junior Walker. You see them every weekend. So, I had this, it was just like almost an overload of music. And the Beatles, of course, were and the Stones and all the British Invasion, Stax and Motown. So I was just like, whoa, I just loved it all.
I was talking with Scott Tatey yesterday, and he was saying he had talked to you, and he said, I don't know, he wanted me to ask, was one of the first bands you saw, was it Dave Clark 5, or did they have a big impression on you?
First big band I saw at the arena was the Dave Clark 5.
Yeah.
And I think the top ticket price was $4. They had 1, 2, and 4.
Wow, yeah.
And they come out. I mean, they played it, no monitors, and they had like a couple of Shore columns,
Yeah.
It was crazy back in those days.
It seemed like in your writing style, and so you cite a lot of the bluesy influence, and do you think that's kind of where you tended to, you meshed a lot of different things, obviously, but
well, I think I tended to like the more hard edge stuff.
Yeah.
And I think my vocals, my voice lent more to that.
Yeah.
If I wasn't the primary vocalist, I might have been playing something completely different. But, I usually gravitated towards songs I could sing.
Right.
So if I could sing the guy, then, they went to the top of my playlist. Like I could sing the Stones, but I couldn't sing Paul McCartney because I'm a baritone. I could sing the old Mick Jagger songs, but I couldn't touch Paul. Well, John, sometimes I could, sometimes I couldn't,
Yeah.
So in the Mercy bands, it all depends what key they were in. Because I wasn't trained enough. I didn't have enough talent or awareness of the guitar at that time to change the keys.
Right.
Most of us were clueless about all that kind of stuff when we first started. You copy the record if you can get the chords down. And the bluesier stuff had easier chords, usually 2 or 3 chords, and I can handle that.
Yeah.
You go to 5 or 6 chords, whoa,
I always felt that if you're listening to polkas too, there's a basic fundamental somewhere in there. I don't know where. Oh yeah, the blues obviously.
Oh yeah, the blues is very, very, especially when I started writing. Seriously in the 70s, my first band that morphed into the House Rockers was called the Brick Alley Band, and before the forerunner of that was this band called B.B. Wolf, and we took it from B.B. King and Howlin' Wolf.
Yeah.
And we were really bluesy because I had hooked up with a harmonica player, a very good harmonica player, and the guitar player I was playing with, he was just crazy about the blues, and so that was really a learning curve there too, because I was aware of Muddy and Holland Wolf and those guys, but then I started to go a lot deeper into the blues, like Earl Hooker and Junior Wells and Buddy Guy and J.B. Lenore and all those type of cats when I hooked up with those guys. So that really informed our playing there for a while. And then the original Iron City House Rockers, when we had a record deal, we had a full-time harmonica player for 3 records.
Right.
And it's hard not to be blues based when you got a full-time harmonica player.
Yeah. Is that Mark?
Mark Reisman. And before that, right before we got our record deal, is Jimmy King.
King.
So we were always, I was always blessed to play with really good harmonica players.
Did you meet Art? Was he one of the guys prior to that, or did you meet him at that venue you were talking to me about, the Duke?
Art and I played together in high school.
Right. Okay.
His cousin was a drummer, and he brought Art into the band, and we had a band in high school. We played around, and then we went to the same college for a while. Then Art played with me in college, and then he dropped out for a while, and then I had a band in college, and then after I graduated, we hooked up again, and that was we hooked up permanently in 1976, and we were together for 40 years until he was injured in an accident. He couldn't play anymore, but but the Iron City House Rockers in I think late in '75, I was playing at After Hours Club.
Yeah,
we played from 2 to 5 in the morning, and he came to see us play one night, and I was playing with Jimmy King and a guitar player, different rhythm section, which basically became the Brick Alley Band and then into the House Rockers. And he asked me if I wanted to get a band together, and I said only if we are serious in play originals and try for a record deal, which was like shooting for the moon in Pittsburgh, because there was no, there never was much of a music industry here.
Now, is that
a sports town?
Sports town. Now, is that around the time when you said you rented a house up in Mount Washington, and to kind of?
I remember the date. I moved into Mount Washington, January 10th, 1976.
Wow.
With the idea, the sole idea of I was going to finance everything, because I was teaching special ed, and I was single. I put all my money, every spare penny I had into equipment, and just a tape recorder, and set up my basement, this little Pittsburgh basement. You know what they're like, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And there was 4 or 5 guys in this basement almost every night for almost a year. Wow. Just working on songs, as we wrote all the time.
Right.
Every week we try to come up with a new song.
Right.
And since we're rookies at it, we were working on our arrangements and everything ourselves. It's just trial and error. Would tape something and say, oh, this sounds good, and just throwing stuff out there and see what worked.
What when you started gigging, was what would say a couple of the venues that you recall that you got your foothold?
Well, the first gig we played with this particular lineup, which is the Brick Alley Band, we played at a bar in Braddock, Pennsylvania.
Oh, yeah.
And we were terrible. I mean, because we wanted to get out of the basement. We figured, well, we'll learn some covers. Just, the 4 walls were closing in. And, we figured you got to go play in front of people, test things out.
Sure.
And we had a 2-night stand at this place, and we got fired. We were asked. We knew we were never going back because our covers were terrible. When we tried to do top 40, they just sucked. We weren't into it.
Yeah.
We had, we played songs like Deaf, Dumb, Crippled, and Blind, and Jay Giles and James Montgomery Blues Band, and just Jesse Ed Davis, Reno Street. Just stuff that nobody knew. Not your typical, and then plus originals. So people hated it, and so the next place we went to a bar called the Gazebo. It was right after you come out of the Liberty Tubes on 19 there.
All right.
And the guy's name is Marty Paisano. And we say, hey, Marty, he had a nice bar, nice stage, and the bar was dying. There was nobody there. So we talked him into letting us play whatever we wanted to play, and would play for the door.
Right.
And in those days, it was, if you wanted to play in Pittsburgh, it was still like a musicians union town. So you had to play. You started at 10 o'clock, you played at 10:40. Took a 20-minute break. And a lot of bars enforced that. So we come in and we didn't have, we had two sets worth of stuff. So we started whenever we felt like and quit whenever we felt like. But we started drawing a crowd. We started drawing a big crowd. And then he sold the place. And, we're hunting for another place to play. So we said, well, let's try Oakland, because it was like the hot spot nightlife place in Pittsburgh.
Right.
And we talked one of the owners of the Decade into letting us play. And we immediately caught on. So we were doing our own thing at the Decade. We started playing on Thursday nights. And then we started playing on Saturday nights, and then we started playing Thursday and Saturday constantly for a long period of time, playing originals. And, at the same time, we were recording these demos and sending them out, and we hooked up with Steve Popovich Sr., and we got a record deal. And the rest is history.
And the rest is. So were you at that time, prior to your record deal and while you were still pursuing it, were you down there at Maury's doing shows at that time? Prior?
Oh, yeah. I was going to, I told you I saw stuff. Any show I could go to, I'd go to. But, I saw Tony play, back in the 60s. I would go to any show I could. I was out every night.
Yeah.
I went to see music every night of the week. Nobody was open on Sundays in those days. But
right.
Every other day, from Monday through Saturday, there was bands playing somewhere, and I was there every night. Just it was like I just wanted to learn as much as I could about watching the guitar players play, listening to how they put their sets together. I was just crazed about it.
So now when getting back to your demo tapes, getting up to Steve Popovich, you had a story that Buzz Skaggs and he were sitting together.
Well, Steve, we sent out demos, and one night we were going to play, and by this time we were a pretty efficient band, and we were doing our own thing, and places were hiring us. I was heading out on a Friday or Saturday night, and I got a phone call from Steve Popovich, who invited us. We had sent him a demo tape, and Steve liked the demo, and he invited us to Cleveland. And, I was telling my kid, we made it there without any GPS, We found where we were supposed to go.
Yeah.
And no cell phones, like cavemen.
Yeah.
Pioneers.
Yeah.
Taking a covered wagon over the Rockies. So we made it to Cleveland, and we pulled up, rang the doorbell, knocked on the door front. And the door opens. There's Ronnie Spector in a bikini.
Oh, wow.
Like, whoa! So Ronnie had put out "Say Goodbye to Hollywood," and that was the Cleveland Entertainment's initial single. And, Billy Joel wrote it. Steve Van Zandt produced it, and Bruce and the E Street Band played on it. And so it was like right off the bat, it was jaw dropping to me. And so she said, well, come on out back. Says Steve will be here in a minute. And we were going, park our van, and up comes a tour bus. And Ike gets Boss Skaggs and, a lot of his band, Irving Azoff,
Wow. Yeah.
some Southside Johnny guys.
Wow.
And we're at this party in the back at Steve's pool. And in the middle of it, he throws on our demo tape. And of course, you're cringing. You're like, oh my God, don't put this on in front of all these people. Yeah. And after it was done, Boss Skaggs walked over to us and he said, man, that was really good. Shook our hands. He said, hey, if you're here to hook up with Steve, he's the guy. So
Wow.
then Steve called us in his office. We had a bit of a discussion, and he sent us back to Pittsburgh, I always say, with a pocket full of hope.
Right.
He gave us a budget to go in the studio and just lay stuff down. And so we did. We just started recording. And he liked what he heard enough to sign us. And then we started working on the first record.
So then you guys would all were working during the day. Then you would hustle up to Cleveland to record. Is that correct?
Yeah, when I got the record deal, though, I did quit my day job.
Oh, okay.
I was teaching through all this. I was teaching well, they called it in those days. It's politically incorrect, but they called it an institution for the mentally retarded.
Right.
So I worked with the kids who had been basically abandoned in these institutions since birth because they had so many profound problems.
Yeah.
And but when I got my record deal, I quit the day gig. Probably not the best thing because I had no idea what was going on. It took us about a year and a half to get the record out finally.
Yeah.
But sometimes we'd play Thursday night at the Decade, drive up Friday morning, record all Friday, then drive back and play Friday night somewhere. The whole first record until I did the vocals and some guitar overdubs for a couple of days in New Jersey. The first record, the whole band, all of us recording was only, we never did 2 days in a row.
Right. Yeah.
So it was just, we were just basically putting our stage show down.
Right.
And Steve Popovich and his partner Marty Mooney were the producers, but they were great guys and they had a lot of good ideas, but no musical chops, to speak of. Just they couldn't say, change the key, instead of playing a G here, maybe you want to play an A or,
right.
Stuff like that, like a producer did, or change the tempo or, do verse chorus or start off with a chorus. It was just basically we'd play stuff and they'd say, well, we like this. And, we just, sit there and have these head sessions with them till we got the song worked out. And it's basically the songs that we knew inside and out because we had been rehearsing them in my basement and playing them in the clubs.
Right.
So we could change them. We could pivot on a dime.
Right.
So that's how we recorded the first record.
So Love So Tough came out in 79?
79. It was a good record. And the thing that struck us the most about it was Grill Marcus, who was like the dean of music writers in the day, which, was like an esteemed position at that time.
Yeah.
Gave us this glowing review in Rolling Stone magazine.
Right.
And that sort of gave us a legitimacy. But it wasn't an easy record to promote because we came out in the middle of a gasoline shortage.
Yeah.
And you can only get gas on certain, depending what your
license plate.
License plate and you get a Tuesday, Thursday, or Saturday. Everything was closed Sunday. So if you're out on the road on Saturday night,
yeah,
how are you going to make it home if you're in New Jersey and there's no gas?
Yeah, it's hard.
Staying in hotels, it just put you in the poorhouse.
Yeah.
So we figured we toured for a little while, and then I got sick, and we had to quit for a while.
Right.
And so when I was recuperating, that's when we got the word that we were going to do the next record, and I started writing the songs that eventually became "Have a Good Time to Get Alive."
What was the time frame, say, from when your first album came out that you got the green light? Hey, we're giving you a second record. Let's go.
Well, it came out in April, and I had to go in the hospital in October. And when I come out of the hospital, probably November. So maybe 6 months.
6 months.
Yeah. So we were really happy. And then as it got closer, we knew we were going up to New York to record, and we felt we were going to do the next one right, which was rehearse with whichever producer we were going to do. We were with Steve and Marty initially.
Right.
And we were going to rehearse. We had a week of rehearsals in SIR studios. And then we had a buyout at Media Sound for 7 or 8 days.
Wow.
So we knew we were going to, do this the way the big boys did it. The pros did it. Yeah. So we were pretty excited about it. And like I said before, I mean, the music was the whole ball of wax. We were all single.
Yeah. You were in.
Yeah. We were all in.
Yeah.
So we worked very hard on rehearsing these songs, and a lot of the songs against Steve always let us go in, like a reasonable studio and just demo tape everything.
Right.
So the stuff that's on the bonus disc is all the demos we did of the songs.
Those are
basically we weren't hearing the songs for the first time when we went through to do the record.
So when you guys got into the studio, then how long was it prior before you? How did the producers start coming in?
Well, Steve and Marty might have been the first day. You got to excuse me, it's 40 years ago. But
yeah.
But one day they showed up with Mick Ronson,
mm-hmm.
and he says, "Well, wow,
yeah,
Mick Ronson, he's, this is great. He's going to produce the record. Wow."
Yeah.
And then I think the next day they showed up with Steve Van Zandt. Wow, Steve Van Zandt.
Yeah.
Steve Van Zandt's going to produce the record. So we just went along with it.
Yeah.
And Steve Popovich, he had really good personal and business relationships with Ian, Mick, and Steve. And, we were a good band and we had good songs, and and maybe they were taking a chance on us, but they were taking a chance on us because of Steve Popovich.
Right. Well, so, you were saying that with Stevie Van Zandt that you credit him a lot to influenced your songwriting, and you were saying he one of the things he said is use every word. Is that correct?
Right.
Yeah.
Steve was real instrumental in pushing me to take my lyrics more seriously, because in those days I'd work very hard on a lyric on one song, and then like I had a song called maybe Angela, and he said these lyrics aren't very good. I can remember him saying that. He said, why aren't these as good as the other ones? I said, it's this throwaway rock song. He goes, no. Nothing's a throwaway. He says, every song counts, every lyric counts. You got to make them all count.
Yeah.
And I never forgot that advice. So, I always pay a lot of attention to lyrics of every song I write, And I know some of them aren't as good as other ones, but I know when I write a really good lyric. And but I try to avoid writing a bad lyric,
Well, it's almost, for me, Have a Good Time, lead off track, obviously, is that speaks to me. It speaks to all the Pittsburghers. I'm when I hear those lyrics, I'm feeling it. I'm smelling the smells, feeling it. I imagine I'm somewhere, So, and of course, Junior's Bar and Old Man Bar.
Oh yeah.
It's like you and I may have chatted about this before, but I still envision those World War II guys that you guys are talking about in Old Man Bar. And then, of course, the flip side, the younger man going into Junior's Bar, picking up the gal, and paints a vivid picture.
Well, I decided at some point in my songwriting process, probably starting with the first record, I think Dance With Me, or I Can't Take It. And I started writing about things I knew about. I started observing
Yeah.
the life that was going on around me and writing about it.
Yeah.
And that sort of gave me the key, you know, that unlocked the key for me that I said, well, you know, that's a much better fit for me personally than, you know, I'm not a Dungeons and Dragon guy, you know, that, you know, make these flights of fancies or talk about, you know, living a good life out in Malibu. And, you know, I have to write about stuff that I knew about. And, you know, I was old enough to know intimately the ins and outs of Pittsburgh, you know, just the lifestyle and the people here. And I just started focusing. You know, I just, sometimes I lived in Mount Washington and I take the incline down to the city and I just walk around the city for a whole day and just, you know, I'd have a little notebook in my back pocket and I'd see somebody, I said, what's their story? You know, who's this guy? Or just, you know, talking to the people that come see us play. I mean, that's how I got that phrase. I have a good time because I'm alive. Our initial fan base, like, were so over the top about us. I mean, they were like crazed some nights. And I can remember, you know, them say, I said to one guy, I said, hey man, you know, have a good time and get out of here alive. You know, they were tearing a place up every night. There'd be huge fights and, you know, the guys would just, you know, break beer bottles and fall on the floor. I mean, it was crazy at the height of the Iron City House Rocker stuff.
Yeah, you captured that in the lyric too, right? Have a little whiskey and then live all, you know, every time in one night, right? You know, that's how it was. You nailed it,
drink
man.
a little whiskey,
Yeah.
It's how to get all in one night because in those days, you know, looking back at it, you know, it was the end of an era here in Pittsburgh.
Right.
You know, the late 70s, early 80s. And then we'd come off of, you know, all that swagger for being a city of champions and the Steelers and all that. And, you know, so people had that attitude, you know, don't fuck with me attitude. But still, you could feel the whole city, the whole industry collapsing.
Yeah, the mills were going south.
The mills were gone. People were losing their jobs. So it became like you said, you know, every night it was like the last night on earth.
Yeah.
You know, sort of like the pandemic, I guess. Well, that's probably why this song's resonating now with people. You know?
Yeah. And also, of course, Rockola, I know you guys did it in an upbeat tempo initially, which I really dig as well. But I think also in the slow tempo version, hearing you could talk about driving home from Cleveland, you know, there'll be another show.
I have to really credit Mick Ronson for that because I had the lyrics and, you know, we were trying to make it go as this upbeat song. And, you know, it's another thing I learned from those guys, both Steven and Mick, was just, you know, sometimes you got to throw out your preconceived notions of how things are going to go.
Yeah.
And, you know, Mick came over and I didn't know he was a classically trained pianist.
Wow.
And he just sat down and he played through those chords and it was just like stunning. It became, you know, it transformed the whole song and it made the lyrics mean so much more than the setting we had for them. Mm-hmm. And it was something, you know, like musicians, you know, you're out there on the road driving home. And not every gig's great. You know, at our level, you know, you can play great, but people, you know, could just walk out after the first song, you know, playing "Hey Sharona, my Sharona," you know. So it was just one of those nights. Nothing was going right, and you know, but we had tomorrow was another gig.
Another gig,
Going at it again tomorrow somewhere else.
Yeah.
And try to heal a little bit.
Yeah.
Heal their psychic wounds.
And so now, 40 years later, Cleveland International reforms, correct?
Right.
So Steve Jr.?
Steve Jr., yeah.
And so you guys were able to remaster, reissue, include all the tracks. Now you, Johnny, and your sound guy were digging through.
Brian Coleman, yeah.
Brian, we're digging through all the archives, and you came up with quite a tail end to the process. how you did it. I'm always fascinated by how, you know, like for your album in particular, because for me, you guys are one of the reasons why you gave us hope, us guys who didn't have much opportunity. So wow,
It was
you know,
like, you know, the Iron City House Rockers are almost transformational here in Pittsburgh because
yeah,
there was nothing like us ever here.
not at all. Yeah,
And you know, so we had the whole city united behind us. That's why when the steel mills finally collapsed, like 2 years later, like we lost our fan base because it's scattered
yeah,
everywhere.
yeah. Everybody, yeah,
But when we went to tell us we were putting this record together, that's the story I wanted to tell. It's like we started in this demo studio in Wilkinsburg with this.
right.
You know, like your guys, you know, that lived down the street that played guitar. You know, your local guys,
Yeah,
and we were shooting for something, and we take that, and you know, it starts November, December, maybe a little bit into January. You know, everybody would take those long Christmas breaks, so we probably recorded that stuff in November and maybe some in January.
yeah,
And then by February, we were in New York City. And, you know, by the grace of God, we're working with all these rock superstars.
yeah. Wow.
So here's what we started with, you know, and over, you know, like a 6-month period of time, 7 months, you know, this is what we come out with on the other side. And that's the story that I wanted to tell,
Yeah,
that we wanted to tell. And, you know, Johnny, both Johnny and Brian's sort of the historian of the band, you know, and he knows where all the good takes are of everything.
Yeah.
And Johnny's very, very passionate about our legacy. So all three of us, you know, we were able to put that together.
yeah. I think
it's pretty interesting myself.
Yeah, I think it's a great story. It's a great, perfect time for it. Obviously, 40 years. Now, also, you mentioned your photographer, all those photographs from that era. Who is she?
Barb Freeman. She was dating Mark.
Oh, okay.
Player. Yeah, she has a book out of all the, you know, where you can get all the pictures from that era. She did the front cover, the back, you know, all that stuff. Really good picture book if you're interested in the rockers.
One of the other things also is with Cleveland International now.
Cleveland has Love So Tough and
right.
Have a good time.
Have a good time.
If you're a vinyl guy, you owe it to yourself to get this record because it just smokes from the get-go.
Yeah, I think that's the way to hear the record on vinyl, and I'm sure with the remastering and the new technology, whatever guys are doing these days, it just, yeah. So they'll also be able to buy. There's shirt bundles and various different
shirts and you know I call them squeegees. I know that.
Yeah.
Koozies.
Yeah, the koozies. Yeah. Got to have those with the Iron City, man.
Yeah, the Iron City.
You were interviewed on the Underground Garage when the record first came out, or the reissue came out. They've been playing you guys probably 3 or 4 times a day. I hear you all the time. Just heard you. Yeah, so they've been giving you a lot of spins. And
Junior's Bar is like a lost great single, you know?
Yeah.
It really is a great rock song.
Yeah, I love it.
It's, you know, and the playing on it is just just something else.
Yeah, you guys were firing on all cylinders there, man.
Yes,
Not that you weren't in other areas, but man, you guys, that was a special record, and it, you know, for me, I really enjoyed it. And
yeah, it's a slice of Pittsburgh, I'll tell you that.
Yeah. So also now, after the Iron City House Rockers, you started doing Joe Grushecky in the House Rockers, and then you did some.
Well, when the Iron City House Rockers broke up, when Ronder got me a record deal, and there was just too many entanglements to the name.
Sure. Yeah.
And you know, I wanted to get a fresh start, and basically call my own shots, but Ronder says if we tell people we have Joe Grushecky, only some people know who it is, in the music business.
Right.
If we say, hey, we signed the singer for the Iron City House Rockers, the recognition factor goes way up.
I got you.
So
Yeah.
I said, oh, well, let's maybe try Joe Grushecky and the House Rockers. So that's how that came about.
Right.
Which is the moniker I use mostly, except I have gone out and done a few records just on my own without the band, just
Yeah.
just for the hell of it. Not
Yeah.
that I'm dissatisfied with the band, but I just wanted to
Yeah.
explore some different. It's great playing with some different guys occasionally.
Right. Yeah, you had what are some of your singles you did? Like That's What Makes Us Great. You
Right.
did that with Bruce. Yeah.
But that's my band playing on that one. Though.
Yeah, it's your band. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, when did you write?
Our band.
Right. Yeah, I know what you mean. Now, when did you write with Code of Silence? Was that around 2000? When was that?
Code of Silence, I believe we wrote that the year that Mark McGuire and Sammy Sosa was hitting all the home runs.
Big duels, yeah. Yeah.
Was it 98?
98, I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's how
I remember that era.
Yeah. There are a lot of great YouTubes of you guys playing either with your band or with Bruce sitting in with you.
Right.
A lot of really fun YouTubes. I enjoy checking all those out,
Well, a gentleman named Ken Rosen informed me that we did, I think, 50. Bruce and I played together 53 times, which is quite a lot,
Wow. When did you initially hook up, say? When did you guys bump into one another back in the...
With Steven. Steven, was working with us, and I went one night to the power station to meet Mick Ronson.
Okay.
After we did the initial band tracks, and we took a couple-week break, and I was coming back up to New York to work on the vocals and the mix. And I was by myself, and I went down and met Mick one night. He was down at the power station working on the second Meatloaf record.
Oh, yeah.
And listen to this band. They had Max Weinberg, Gary Talent. That was the rhythm section. Yeah. Nicky Hopkins.
Wow.
Nicky Hopkins on piano.
Yeah, man.
Right? Davy Johnstone from Elton John on guitar.
Wow. Yeah.
And Mick Ronson on guitar.
Wow. Yeah.
Working on a Meatloaf record. They never, I don't think they ever completed it.
Never.
But they were working in one room, and Steve and Bruce were working on the river in the other room.
Wow.
So I met them down at the power station.
Wow.
And, they would cross paths a few times, but we really, and I think 81, maybe 81, 82, we played Jersey, played Big Man's, Clarence's Club.
Right.
And Bruce come down, and he sat in with us, and we just hung out all night after we were done and just hit it off.
Yeah. As the 2000s progressed with the current band, with you guys, you've been pairing it up. You got several releases. I wanted to ask you, recently you recorded live for the food bank. You guys were together. Johnny obviously joined the band, about maybe 10 years ago or roughly?
Johnny joined the band at birth.
Oh, yeah, at birth, yeah, of course. Yeah.
But he always wanted to play with us, but he's taken on a bigger role.
Sure,
As we both grow older, he's my right hand guy now.
Absolutely.
He takes care of my day-to-day stuff a lot, and I really trust his judgment. And he brings that youth thing to us. Because we're all old men, and you look at him and you say, oh yeah, this is why I started playing in the first place.
Yeah. So where was that venue you guys just did that food bank? Because whoever shot that, they did really well. You guys sounded killer. I don't know how long it was since you've been together with the whole virus thing, but
yeah, it was. I think it was in May that we shot that.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And but we haven't played. That was the first time we actually played together since February 8th.
Wow. Yeah.
Because that was our last gig. And we actually had like 5 weeks off, and we had all these gigs booked.
Yeah.
And the country shut down right when we were starting to play again.
Yeah.
But we recorded that down at a place called The Church. It's an old church turned into a recording studio.
Right.
Where Route 51 is. It's on 51.
Yeah.
And and we just shot it there and videotaped
Yeah.
it and recorded it.
Yeah, it sounded great. And then also, of course, you were with you did that Allegheny County Parks thing
Yeah,
just
did that.
recently.
Yeah,
That was very cool. I liked how DZ asked you about Homestead and had someone
yeah,
handed you a book and you discussed your writing process. That
yeah.
was pretty cool.
Yeah, it was just one of those things. I was saying that Bruce and I did American Babylon, and I
Yeah,
played him a few songs, and he didn't like any of them. And so I went home. I was determined to write some good songs.
yeah, yeah,
And we're playing a gig, and one of my fans came up and said, you have to have this book.
yeah,
He said, I read it, and I got your copy because it just tells the story of Homestead, which is like the microcosm of the steel mills here in Pittsburgh.
yeah,
And I can remember I was driving to work one day, and I come out of the Liberty tunnels, and it was like Dorothy, turned from black and white to Technicolor. I can remember coming out of these tunnels, and I said, "Whoa!" I had almost a whole song in my head.
wow.
I was just very lucky. It's one of those songs that's, I read the story, and the rest of it came to me very, very quickly.
Yeah.
As fast as I could write it down, except for the last verse. The last verse we struggled over. Other than that, I pretty much was a gift.
Yeah, it was awesome. And then also now you're doing the live at Joe's place. You've taken a little
I'm going to
hiatus.
start that back up pretty soon. I did 13 weeks, and basically all this stuff you're talking about is all still up on my YouTube, not my YouTube, my Facebook channel.
Yeah, I'm gonna
Facebook page, not channel.
Yeah,
Facebook page.
Yeah, I'll post links where people can find that.
I got 13 shows, acoustic shows.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun, man. Yeah, those are fun. Yeah,
some are really good, some are. But
I got a little sip of the hooch, little. And then also, that someday, man, I'd love to hear when you and I first were talking several months ago about the days of in Jerry's records. Maybe that we could talk about that sometime, or if you.
Yeah, when I got I was going through my demos. I just pulled out a bunch of stuff from Jerry's.
All right.
I did a single with Jerry's. It's called Radio Ears.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was like a local hit. Goodbye Stilltown.
Yeah.
Was a really good song. That was on there. And but I did I did a couple I did a song called Paying Dues. And I've since lost the master. Where Jerry's I don't know what happened to, but it was sort of like a Pittsburgh All-Star band.
Yeah.
Herman Granati on keyboards, Art on bass, Bird Foster on drums. Bird was just a tremendous drummer. Warren King, lead guitar. Frank Zuri, Donnie Iris, me, Bird, and Herman all singing background.
Wow. Holy cow.
Called Playing Dues.
Yeah. That studio is still active, but it has a different name now.
Yeah.
So, they do live little get-togethers there. Someday, man, you guys get some of the old gang and do a little something down there.
Yeah, I don't mind doing that. You should come in for something. We can work out some songs.
Yeah, boy, that would be fun. Who knows? Maybe that master tape's down in the basement somewhere,
Couldn't find it.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure we're running a little short on time. I wish I could chat some more with you, but I just want to let everyone know that you can get your reissued Have a Good Time at Get Out Alive on clevelandinternational.com.
Right.
And your entire back catalog, digital and CD, is available on
joegrushecky.com.
joegrushecky.com. Everybody go Have a Good Time with Get Out Alive reissued vinyl and CD, clevelandinternational.com.
Yep.
I just wanted to thank you for spending the time chatting with me. And
I had a great time.
This is a blast.
Thanks for having me.
Godspeed to you guys, and let's get out of this thing in one piece.
All right, man.
Okay.
Thanks.
Take care.
See you later, brother.
Bye-bye.
Bye.